Were you consulted by the White House before they deployed National Guard troops to cities in the United States?
I am not going to discuss any internal conversations with the White House.
Do you believe that government officials like Gregor Bovino are obligated to follow applicable court orders, whether they agree with them or not? Yes or no?
I wish that you loved your state of California as much as you hate President Trump.
I'm going to ask a simple yes or no question.
The president said, we can't delay any longer, Pam, using your name, and then goes on to tell you to prosecute a member of this committee, to prosecute the Attorney General of New York, and to prosecute James Comey. Do you consider that a directive to the Justice Department?
Senator Klobuchar, President Trump is the most transparent president in American history.
Did you discuss James Comey with the President of the United States? He was sitting just to your left.
Well, 2 seats down, yes, 2 seats down. And I am not going to discuss any conversations I've had or not have with the President of the United States.
Because the American public is entitled to know.
How did you conclude that these strikes on ships or boats in the open ocean are legal?
Senator Coons, I'm not going to discuss any legal advice that my department may or may not have given or issued.
Having you respond with completely irrelevant far-right internet talking points really is not very helpful here.
It's very clear to me that when the president posts something like that, that he considers the DOJ to be his law firm and you his lawyer.
And on it went like that. We're joined now by Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, Democrat from Rhode Island, on that Judiciary Committee, who also questioned the Attorney General today. Good evening.
Good evening.
What did you make of the Attorney General's response? And while there's often back and forth in these hearings, many people have seen excerpts of her apparent decision to just flatly say she won't be answering a lot of questions.
Yeah, it set a new low in outright witness evasion. In the first Trump administration, we did a lot of what I called kind of non-denial, non-assertion assertions of various privileges. She didn't even bother to hand wave about privileges. She just said, I'm not going to answer that question. And there really is no conceivable privilege that protects what happened to the $50,000 that the FBI gave to Tom Homans, that protects whether or not the Department of Justice sealed the grand jury testimony of Kash Patel after he got immunity after pleading the Fifth, about whether or not OPR had concluded its investigation into prosecutorial misconduct by Emil Bovy, now a judge. There just isn't even a facial claim to be made. So she just looked at us, knowing that no Republican was ever going to force it, and just said, no, I'm not telling you.
There was, of course, important lines of questioning. The DOJ's had a lot to defend itself on, from Epstein to what we heard a little bit in the excerpt I showed, her response to questions about whether the president ordered in an indictment of what he perceives as an opponent. This is a little bit more on that James Comey indictment.
Is it true that the career prosecutors in the Eastern District of Virginia found that there was insufficient evidence to bring criminal charges against former Director Comey?
I am not going to discuss pending cases because Comey was indicted in the Eastern District of Virginia by, I may point out, one of the most liberal grand juries in the country.
What are your concerns about that indictment? Go ahead. You look ready to go.
Just, how does a grand jury get to be liberal? A grand jury is a group of maybe 20 or 30 people. It's brought in from the public at large. How do you know, how do you have the faintest idea what their political predilections are? 30 people in a ginormous state like Virginia. The fact that she could say something like that, which is a completely evidence-free characterization, just was, it's like a small telltale of what a wonky hearing this was. Just weird.
And where do you go from here? I mean, you mentioned, obviously, if you have bipartisan collaboration, and there's been hints of that on Epstein in a couple issues, then you can force more subpoenas, et cetera. But if she's going to treat the committee this way, and thus, by extension, I suppose, the the constituents who've elected the people to ask these questions, try to get answers. How do you deal with that?
You follow on first with written questions for the record, which we'll of course be doing. Sometimes they won't answer a senator's written question for the record, but what they're withholding is something that's obtainable under the Freedom of Information Act by anyone. So we've gotten in the habit of putting parallel FOIA requests, they're called, Freedom of Information Act requests in, and then you can start holding up things until you get an answer, which is something that the Republicans in the committee have been very good at in the past. So they may be somewhat sympathetic if we start doing that. So there are a bunch of ways to put pressure on them, but at the end of the day, you know, persistence kind of pays off. It took me years to get to the bottom of the botched, fake Kavanaugh supplemental background investigation process, but I did. So you just have to keep digging.
What are your concerns about the current independence or partisan vendettas being exercised by Donald Trump through the DOJ? And ultimately, if we keep what they call regular order and rule of law, do any of these prosecutors have anything to be concerned about, law licenses or otherwise, if evidence shows that rather than following evidence, they indicted people regardless of evidence?
Yes, lawyers put their tickets at risk when they engage in that kind of behavior. Bar associations have repeatedly gone after various lawyers who violated their oaths in return for loyalty to Trump. So there's a track record there. The other thing that happens is that these cases go forward. So watch particularly, for instance, the Comey case, where some of the best lawyers ever to come through the Department of Justice will be representing Comey, and they'll be up against kind of a gong show of also-ran lawyers representing the department, including one who's never tried a case, who's the U.S. attorney, never tried a criminal case. And as they dig through that, and as they get discovery, and as they ask questions about where department rules were violated and where laws were violated and blow up false evidence, that can become quite a calamity for the prosecuting office as they dig relentlessly through all the failings buried in that case.
Yeah, it's a good point you're reminding everyone, which is they still have to go to an arena where expertise, judges, evidence, rules all apply. It's not just what they post online. Senator Whitehouse, important leadoff guest on the big hearing today. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.